Eric and I were able to add another state to the map, North Dakota. When we cross the border into North Dakota, the first town you get to is Fargo. We drove over 300 miles across the state. We drove over lakes, saw rivers, saw some art on the side of the highway, and finally reached the Little Missouri National Grasslands. This is part of the Badlands in North Dakota. The Badlands are expansive and awesome. The pictures don't do it justice. We soon arrived to Medora, North Dakota, where we stayed at the campground. Medora is the entrance to the Teddy Roosevelt National Park. They sure love Teddy in Medora. Statues of him, hotels named after him, Rough Riders everywhere. As a matter of fact, we rode our bikes and we got to have purple ice cream. However, that evening, smoke covered the town, and North Dakota, fires from Canada, Montana, Idaho, everywhere in the West covered North Dakota with smoke. We did ride down to the entrance of the Theodore Roosevelt National Park, took some pictures. We entered the park on our bikes just briefly and saw some deer on the side of the road. The next morning, we went into the park, and Eric got to see his very first prairie dog. That was exciting until we saw prairie dogs everywhere. I think he saw 50 to 100 prairie dogs that day. We had the park just about to ourselves. It was still smoky in the morning. But we did go on some small hikes and explore the park. We saw the grasslands, the Badlands, and a rabbit on the trail. This is one of the hikes he made me go on. Look how far it was. That's how I felt right there. We looked down in the valley and we saw some bison cooling off in the Little Missouri River. Then we began to see bison everywhere. Not as many as Yellowstone, but they do seem wilder and not as used to people. Like I said, the park was virtually empty. Lots of grassland, lots of views of the river, and lots of cliffs up against the river. We had a good day in the park, and then we went back to rest for a little bit before we headed out into town, where we ate at a local steak cookout with some of the local people. They sure are proud of their town and of Teddy Roosevelt. The next day we went up to the north end of the Theodore Roosevelt National Park. We saw more bison, enjoyed the landscape and the grasslands, the rock formations. We often got out of the RV to take pictures, but of course, Scotty had to stay inside. Here's one of the worker camps they first built when they were establishing the park. And there's a view of the Little Missouri River and some more bison alongside the road. The next day, we were able to ride our bikes through the town of Medora. Got some sandwiches. However, it was still very smoky. And when we did hit the road in the RV, we could barely read the billboards alongside the road because of the smoke from the fires. We crossed over this really big lake and we could barely see to the other side. Scotty was glad to stay in the RV. Hope you enjoyed North Dakota and touring Teddy Roosevelt National Park. Highly recommend that park.